The weight of the file in my hands felt like it could crush me. I was the subject, the center of this whole experiment. The realization burned through me like wildfire, turning my thoughts into smoke, scattering them before I could fully grasp them. The truth was now undeniable. Dr. Holt hadn't just been manipulating our memories. He had been molding our very identities. I was a test subject, a pawn in a game I hadn't even known I was playing. I sat at the desk in Ethan's apartment. The file from Dr. Holt's research spread out before me. Each page seemed to twist my gut more than the last, and yet I couldn't look away. My mind screamed for escape, for a way out of this nightmare. But the more I read, the more I realized there was no escape. The truth had already found its way into my life, and now I had no choice but to confront it. I felt Ethan's presence before I saw him. He had been quiet ever since we found the file, and I couldn't decide whether that silence was a relief or a warning. He hadn't spoken much in the past few hours. His face was pale, his eyes distant, as though he were processing something far deeper than either of us was ready for.
Evelyn,
He said quietly, breaking the silence.
what's going on? What's in that file?
I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. Tell him. It was the only thing I could do, but I couldn't find the words. Instead, I slid the file across the table to him, unable to speak. Ethan picked it up, flipping through the pages. I watched him closely, but his face was unreadable, as though he were trying to understand a language that didn't make sense. It wasn't until he reached the final page that his expression faltered.
Dr. Samuel Holt.
He muttered, his voice barely audible. His eyes locked on mine.
This is the man behind it all, isn't it?
I nodded, my chest tightening. He's the one who started it all. The one who erased our memories, controlled our lives. But it's worse than we thought, Ethan. Much worse. Ethan leaned back in the chair, his hands trembling as he set the file down.
I don't understand. Why us? Why have we been chosen?
I didn't have an answer for him. I didn't understand it either. All I knew was that our lives had been shattered by someone who knew us better than we knew ourselves. Holt had been pulling strings behind the scenes, shaping our memories, and now we were left with the fragments. I thought we were just victims, but the truth was more insidious. We've been manipulated from the start, I said, my voice cold with the weight of the words. Holt. He didn't just erase our memories. He changed them. He made us believe that we were who we are. But we're not. We never were.
Then who are we?
Ethan asked, his voice laced with panic.
If we're not who we thought we were, then what are we?
The question hit me harder than I expected. Who was I? What was left of me? My memories, my identity, everything had been built on a lie. Every decision, every thought had been manipulated by Dr. Holt. And yet, I still didn't know how far this manipulation went. I don't know, I whispered. But I think we're about to find out. We spent the rest of the evening combing through more of Holt's documents, trying to piece together any shred of information that could lead us to answers. But each new page was like a fragment of a broken mirror. Nothing was clear. Nothing made sense. At one point, Ethan stood up abruptly, pacing the room.
We need to do more than just read about this. We need to act.
I looked up at him. What do you mean?
We need to find him. Holt. And the gray-eyed man. We need to get answers from the source.
The words felt like a dare. I had known for a while that there was no way out of this without confronting the people responsible. But the thought of facing Holt, of confronting the very man who had shaped and twisted our lives, sent a shiver down my spine. "I'm not sure we're ready for that," I said quietly. "We don't even know where to start. How do we even find them? How do we fight someone who's been controlling us for so long?" Ethan's eyes were filled with determination, but beneath it was the same fear I felt. We were running out of time. The deeper we got, the more dangerous it became. But I knew he was right. We had no choice but to face this head on. It was the only way we could take back our lives.
"We don't have a choice,"
he said, as if reading my mind.
"We have to go to the source. To Dr. Holt. If we can find him, we can stop this."
"But how?" I asked. "How do we even know where to start?" Ethan paused for a moment, deep in thought.
"There's one place I think we haven't looked yet. Holt's private records. If we can find his personal files, his notes, maybe we can get a clearer picture of what he's been doing. Maybe we'll find out where he's hiding."
I didn't like the sound of it, but I didn't see another option. If Holt had been pulling strings for this long, he would have kept a record of everything. He wouldn't leave a trail, but there had to be something we could use. I stood up, my resolve hardening. "Then let's find it. Let's go after Holt." It wasn't easy. We spent hours tracking down every lead we could find, digging through old records, and calling in favors from people who didn't ask questions. The further we dug, the more dangerous it became. But we were getting closer. Ethan led the way, pushing forward with an urgency I hadn't seen before. It was clear that he wasn't just searching for answers. He was searching for closure, for something to hold onto. And the more I followed him, the more I realized that we were both in the same position. We had nothing left. All we had was each other and the shattered pieces of our memories. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we found the information we were looking for. Holt's private address, a small, isolated cabin on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was enough. "This is it," I said, my voice thick with fear and determination. "We find him here." Ethan nodded, his jaw clenched.
"We do this together."
As we prepared to leave, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. The cabin was the last place I wanted to be, but it was the only place where we could get answers. We had no idea what we would find inside, but we couldn't back down. We had to go. The drive was long, the roads dark and winding, leading us farther into the unknown. The farther we went, the more the weight of what we were doing pressed down on me. There was no turning back now. Holt was out there, waiting for us. And the grey-eyed man, he was still lurking in the shadows, watching our every move. By the time we reached the cabin, the sun had set, leaving the world in eerie darkness. Ethan and I got out of the car, our footsteps crunching in the gravel as we approached the door. The silence around us felt suffocating, the kind of silence that screamed something was wrong.
"This is it,"
Ethan whispered.
"Are you ready?"
I looked at him, my heart racing. "No," I admitted. "But we don't have a choice." Ethan nodded and reached for the door. Together, we stepped into the darkness. Inside the cabin, we were about to face Holt, but what we found there would change everything. The final piece of the puzzle was about to be revealed. But at what cost?